So I understand the entirety of the industry. And in case financial professionals did not know, let me be the one to give you some breaking news. The reason I left Prudential, the final straw, the reason I created this game and all of that, in addition to Africa, was the actual intelligence that they were not listening to as much as they could have, where they constantly had me doing financial professional research, and the research was screaming that they needed to deliver financial education to their client, that the days of just selling products was over.
Welcome to episode 36 of the Innovating Advice Show. I'm joined by Angel Rich, who accomplished more by the age of 30 than many people do in a lifetime. In this episode, Angel shares her incredible story, from authoring the first ever African American financial experience study and saving her company $6 billion, to inventing the top financial literacy product in the world and being named the next Steve Jobs by Forbes magazine. Angel is the founder of The Wealth Factory, where she wants to revolutionize financial literacy education, and we discuss why the apps she's created, Credit Stacker and Credit Fixer, should be part of every advisor's toolbox. We also touched on a shared hot button issue that highlights the importance of financial literacy and areas where innovation in financial services is in dire need. Will you be the one to follow in Angel's steps and create a solution that helps to change the world? Links and show notes at innovatingadvice.com/episode 36. You're listening to the Innovating Advice Show, and I'm your host, Kate Holmes, bringing you the global pulse on financial services innovation, featuring financial planners, financial advisors, and related professionals from all corners of the globe. Let's dive in. Hi, Angel. Welcome to the show.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here.
And I am so excited to have you. And Angel, one of the goals of the Innovating Advice Show is to inspire listeners all over the world. I think all of us deep down or have that little voice in our head that, has those innovative ideas and maybe wants more in their life. They want to accomplish more in their life. And you have done all of that and more. So I am so excited to share your story with listeners. And I'd love to start with having you share the story of what your catalyst was that got you to leave a very good, comfortable corporate job with a nice paycheck and great benefits and a position a lot of people find themselves in. But you walked away from all of that to start something incredible. So walk us through what that catalyst was.
Sure. So I'm a former global market research analyst for Prudential Financial. While I was there, I conducted over 70 financial behavioral studies. And the most important study I conducted was the African American Financial Experience Study. It was the first time that a financial services company had analyzed the financial behavior of Blacks.
Wow.
In that study, I was able to actually prove that Blacks own life insurance at an equal or higher value than other races, as well as churches was the best way to be able to go ahead and financially educate Blacks. After that, I then volunteered to do a project that ended up making the company $6 billion.
Wow.
I changed around problem resolution standards, and I figured out that if you solve problems in 2 days versus 3 days, satisfaction will go up by 70%. So this actually helped save the company $6 billion, $60 million in bottom line profit. At that point in time, they gave me a full ride to Wharton, placed me on the CEO track, as well as gave me a double promotion. But at the time, my church was getting ready to go on a mission trip to Africa. And given that I had just did the African American study and had just won a Presidential Achieve Award for the $6 billion and all of these other things, I thought it would only be right for me to ask for $175,000 for them to invest in my church to go on a mission trip. And they told me no. And so when they told me no, it was really astonishing. I was really taken aback. I ended up going to Africa anyway with my church. And while I was there, I met a little boy in a Wharton t-shirt. And every single day I saw this little boy, and it was his only piece of clothing. And I realized no matter how smart this little boy became, he probably would really never have the opportunity to go to Wharton. So I decided to quit my job to create equal access to financial literacy everywhere. And that's what made me leave and start the company.
That's incredible. And so you saved the company like $6 billion, which is a tremendous amount. You asked for $175,000 and you were told no.
Yes.
How does that feel? And do you think, and this is a conversation that has kind of come up, and unconscious biases that people have, and I'm even learning a lot about it, and things that people do that you look back and you're like, no, I'm not biased against anything. But being a Black woman, do you think that potentially played any role in the fact that they said no, even though from a business perspective it
You
made
know,
perfect sense?
I had not quite really thought of that before. But with the question being presented, I could definitely see that being a factor. I kind of am oddly naive in that way, where I came from DC, Chocolate City, and I went to an HBCU. So I really didn't have a lot of experience around racism. It wasn't really until I got to Prudential that I even started to receive it, what I would call indirectly, but it wasn't to the degree of something to, go right home to mom about or to put on the news or something like that. It's very subtle. So that definitely could very well be a strong possibility, because it's something that they have made billions of dollars off of a year. So if there was a Caucasian male that suggested it, they probably actually would have did it, and that is definitely a great question.
Yep. Yeah. And we'll never know. And again, it could be a totally unconscious thing on the part of the people that made that decision. But I think that is one of those examples where we all need to be looking internally and looking at the research that is telling us, a lot of things that we do unconsciously. And it's from society and messages and media that just get ingrained, and untraining things that we don't even realize we were trained to do is a really challenging thing. But Angel, you have turned it around and you have built something incredible, but you did it from, going back for a minute, just you had that opportunity. You were going to get a full ride to Wharton to get your MBA, like you said, on the CEO track. I mean, that could have been a great life. And you said no to start something completely fresh. What was going through your mind during that time? Was it just this experience of being told no, getting the money for your church, or was it something bigger?
Yeah, it was definitely much bigger than that. I have always been driven by like a mission from God, and so I had always kind of intended to leave Prudential and to start my own company. I had thought of the idea for my company in college when I won Goldman Sachs Portfolio Challenge, and I really, but I was probably, I would say, lacking the guts to go ahead and make that chop to jump out there. But after having did such a phenomenal feat, which I volunteered to do, by the way, and and so that was just an extra 6 billion. Like that wasn't in the agenda. So after doing all of that and everything I had did with the African American study, I also led the veteran study. So I had like helped change the country when it came to veterans. So I just felt like I had given them enough, and then witnessing such grave poverty. I met a little girl who probably ended up having her leg amputated. And if she was in America, all she needed was Neosporin. And
Oh,
we were over
wow.
there doing medical triage. And she came to us like, hey, do you think my leg is okay? And we all kind of looked at each other like, my God. And like, all she needed, and it was an infection gone bad. If she was in America, all she needed was Neosporin. So to witness something of that severity and then come back to America, you can't operate the same.
Yep.
So I think I was impacted on a much higher level than anything that you would experience in America. Yes, there's poverty in America, but that's a whole nother level in Africa. So I think it was the combination of me feeling like I had given enough to the company and the world needed me more.
Yep. And I did see an article somewhere that said that you knew back when you were 6 years old that you wanted to start a company geared towards financial literacy to help youth and kids. Where does that come from as a 6-year-old?
It came from God. I received a vision from God when I was 6 years old, sitting on my great grandmother's back porch. Everything that was prophesied in the vision has come true in my life. And when people ask me like how I've been able to accomplish so many things at a young age and how I was so driven and focused, it's all because I've been following this vision and this path that I had. So none of the decisions have really been mine. I could be selfish and try to go start a rock band or do something completely off path of the vision. Then I would be lost and kind of floundering around. But it really has been a direction that I've received from God to accomplish these things.
That's incredible. And again, whether it's, from God or it's an internal voice or it's, if you believe in the universe sending it, like I said, I really do think that we all have that inside of ourselves. We just have to decide, like you just said, are you going to follow it or are you going to go off on another path that might ultimately be harder? And you're always going to have that voice inside of you kind of pulling you back and saying, hey, you're meant to be over here doing this thing. And so you started the Wealth Factory in 2012. And tell us about the fintech app that you started that just absolutely blew up around the world and got incredible accolades.
Thank you. So we're very proud. We launched Credit Stacker. We started the company in 2012, and then we spent a while doing research and fundraising and development and getting the whole thing going. And finally, after fundraising, we were able to launch the app in 2017. And within 2 weeks of us launching the app, we did 200,000 downloads.
Wow.
It was very exciting. Like you said, it blew up across the world, 60 countries to be exact. And we have now organically grown to 450,000 users. And it's just continued. It continues to impress me. It really does. We receive comments, of people increasing their credit score 75 points to 100 points as a result of playing the game. I've had people come up to me in person, multiple people, in tears, that we were able to help get them out of foreclosure as a result of playing the game and learnings from the game. Like we started winning awards in Latin America. We were like, why is that happening? Turns out Latin American women are playing our game in closets at night as a pre-immigration tool to prepare to leave their husbands and come to America because they're not allowed to manage their money. So the only access they have to financial literacy is our game.
Wow.
Like it literally, it's like almost like a child to me. Like, wow, like you did that? Like, it's crazy. Like a product of something that you created. I don't have any children, so Credit Stacker is like my baby. So it impresses me.
That's unbelievable. I can't. Oh, yeah, you're giving me chills just listening to that and knowing the impact that it's making. So share with us a little bit more about, how you built it and what does it look like as you're playing it? Because a lot of people think financial literacy and they think, oh, you're just going to tell people something. And some of that research says that doesn't really work. But you've created this interactive, engaging, gamified game that clearly is making a huge difference and actually impacting people's entire lives.
Thank you. So it's similar to Candy Crush, except for swapping around candy, you swap around credit types to be able to pay off your debt, achieve a high credit score, and learn from the multiple choice questions. It has 15 levels in it currently, and you have to get the multiple questions correct on the first click 3 times in a row as you're playing the game in order to master the question. Once you have mastered the question, it then kind of goes into a master bank, and you're able to kind of move on and you no longer receive that question. From there, you move up into levels and various different things. We're working on more levels right now, as well as data analytics, where we're going to be capturing people's financial information as well inside of the app so that we can tie in the intelligence and the actual behavior.
And this is something, do you have data on kind of who you said women in Latin America in their closets, and you kind of built this for kids? Do you have data on what all the demographics of your users are?
Yeah, again, another surprising statistic It's actually women ages 18 to 35 in Latin America. And so I tell people all the time, I have a digital marketing company, and I tell people the moment that you make an assumption about who your target customer is, you just doomed your company. So we totally, to be honest, we built it for little Black kids. And that's who we thought, Africa and urban Black America. And if we didn't do any research, or if we just went with that assumption, we would have just been in America and focused on those markets. Instead, I'm a researcher by trade. So I actually kind of pushed it across a lot of countries to see where we picked up in. And the first day, we ended up in 42 countries. And then I kind of pushed it a little bit further out to 60. And so with looking at some traction we were having, and we kind of built on that traction. So, and then again, diving into like a whole year, the company was like, what is going on? Like, we just kept winning awards in Latin America. We was like, like at first we was like, oh, that's cute. And then it was like, hold up. When we won best app out of the history of Chile, it was like best top 5 app out of the history of Chile. We was like, okay, we got to fully investigate this. So we spent the whole year just investigating the Latin American market. Like, we're now partnered and stuff with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And so like just all type of like different associations that we would not have even thought to go. And I minored in Spanish. Like, but we would not have even thought to focus on that market. And it's so amazing. And yes, even in the schools, when we go into the schools and banks are major contracts that we mainly focus on as kind of a group. I really kind of honestly even more prefer those, because you get a lot of holistic engagement, and we're able to kind of do a lot more, so when we go into the schools, we've had teachers like, what do you call it? Like crashing our classes because because they want to like play the games and get on the financial literacy as well. I've had like administrators come into the classrooms to pull teachers out, like, hey, aren't you supposed to be teaching your class right now? Yes. But they're in our class playing the game in the financial literacy. So it definitely works across the board at all ages. We recently got a big housing authority contract across the country, and that really encompasses a lot of the family engagement that I was talking about. So we're able to sort of get the parents as well as the student and kind of that whole family holistic environment. And I really do think that that's the key to accelerating the financial education in the country, in the world.
Yep. So how did you decide to kind of focus on that area, especially around credit and debt and cash flow? You did those 70 studies while you were at Prudential. You said you were a researcher in your background, and, with your experience at Prudential, as well as anyone, financial services tends to make everything complicated. There's all this jargon. They're always creating all these complex products, and really you're getting to the heart of it. And as you said, it's for people of every age. There's studies that come out, and I track it. It's whatever year, a couple of years in the US on it's like a third or a fifth of Americans can get, 5 or 10 questions correct on just what is compound interest? How does interest work? We spend so much time talking about all these complex things and hardly any time really talking about just this base fundamental impacts of good credit, good debt, bad debt.
Yeah, that's so true. Forget even telling you what compound interest is. I personally went across some college campuses in DC where we're supposed to have the best schools, in the country here, some of them. It probably took me about 50 students asking them what APR stood for. And finally, one of them told me what it stood for. And it was like annual percentage rate for anybody that's out there questioning themselves. And I was like, that's a wrap. Like, let's go. Like, it was like so ridiculous that it's unfathomable, I also recently learned that half of the students in America in public schools are pretty much on welfare. They have free or reduced meals. I did not know that. Half in America. have free and reduced meals in public education. That is a headline. Secondly, I also recently learned that 1 in 5 students in America, period, 1 in 5 under the age of 18 live in poverty. That's 20% of American kids living in poverty. Like not just poor or not just having a rough time, in poverty, where they're consistently eating out of food pantries on a monthly basis. It's mind-boggling to me.
It is. And unfortunately, that's a lot of the people that get preyed on. And, one of the things in the US that just makes me sick is the system around the payday lenders. And it's because
gosh, do not get me started. Do not get me started. Oh, you just hit my hot button.
It's so awful. And yeah, it's my hot button too. So
I literally have to calm myself back down. I'll tell you 2 quick stories. One, I'm not even gonna say who the company name is because I really like this company a lot. But basically, I was in a competition for one of the top banks in the world, and they had narrowed us down to these like 4 contenders. And this guy is talking about payday loans, and he's like, "Yeah, we don't charge as high of an interest rate because the normal payday interest rate is 800%. So we're just gonna charge between 400 to 500%. And people need these payday loans." I swear I lost it. I'm usually a professional, but I was on the stage, like in like some Congress building or something like that. It was some big government building, and I lost it. And I turned I swear I turned like red, and I was and I was like, and he started what also upset me. He started quoting statistics from the African American study
that you did.
That I did. Okay. I'm like, the chair probably had claw marks in the side of it. So I started off as the author of the African American Financial Experience Study. And the whole audience was like, "Ooh." And I was like, I did not do it so that people could prey on the community. And I just went in. I started he misquoted statistics. He was talking about, that's what else it was. He was talking about going through the churches, and he was basically going to spread payday loans through the churches, which I mentioned I showed was the best way to financially educate them. I swear it's my hot button. And then the second story is I was in an accelerator, also led by one of the biggest payment companies in the world. And I think they won. They won, actually. So I won the story I just told. I ended up winning that one.
Good.
This next one I didn't win because I think I lost it a little bit too soon. So basically at the end, same thing. They were like, "Oh," and this was a competition for financial solutions for vulnerable populations. I just want to put that in context.
Yep.
And this guy is like, "Yeah, we're doing payday loans, but we're only," I think it was 423%. I still remember the number. It was 423%. That's what he was charging. And so this company was like, "Oh yeah, you're providing a solution," because they normally charge 800%. They even had a guy. I'm in there screaming, right? I'm like, I used to work for FINRA. This is not cool. Da, 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 da. They even had a guy come in from the SEC and say that they were going to start cracking down on payday loans, and that this is not good for the country, no matter what, at the interest rate of that level, above 20%, this should not be happening. All it is, this guy still won. It's I don't get it. I can't stand payday loans. I think it is the devil of the country. I don't think they should exist at all. I think what I've actually testified on this with the Treasury, and I've recently heard that one bank is starting to do this. I think that you should be able to get advance on your paycheck from your bank. If it is already coming into your account, you've had this job, let's say 2 years if they want to be strict, but I would say a year. But that's 12 months of payments. But okay, you've had this job for 1 or 2 years. and you consistently get paid every 2 weeks, you're now short. You should be able to hit a button inside of your online banking that you get an advance on your paycheck. I wouldn't even say with interest. You just simply get the advance. If they want to charge 2 or 3%, okay, it should be no more than 3%.
Yep.
And when your paycheck hits, it pays the loan back to the bank. And hey, if we do charge the 3%, the bank just made more money on a deposit you was going to get anyway.
Yep.
Instead of charging overdraft fees and having payday loans and putting people into poverty and having bank accounts closed and I'm also the co-author of the FDIC unbanked underbanked study. So this just like 50% of America is either unbanked or underbanked.
Yep.
And all of that is caused, I'm not going to say all of it because I actually did the research. Majority of it is caused by people overdrawing on their bank accounts. And then they go into this thing called the check system, and they're no longer able to open up another bank account. And so they remain unbanked. And so it's a huge problem. Or you have the underbanked that don't even want to bother trying to put their paycheck into the system because they need cash now. They need cash immediately, or they're trying to hide it in a bunch of other things. So it's like, but if you were to just solve the advancement on paychecks, 75% of America live paycheck to paycheck. And 50% of America can't go more than 3 months without a $500 emergency.
Yeah.
I think it's a third can't go more than a month, and it's a quarter can't go more than a week. So clearly, people need their paycheck. So why not just get the banks in on this? I feel like it's just such a simple solution that's not happening right now.
Well, and that just brings up, and again, a big reason I love your story is I think there are thousands of people out there that are aware of these issues. Maybe they grew up with these issues. A lot of people I talk to that are doing really great things in financial services are because they had personal experiences within their family or as kids or with their grandparents and saw a lot of these issues. And these are massive issues. And I'm not familiar with what the payday loan situation is in other countries, but I know, when it comes to sort of preying on the people in poverty and the low income citizens, that's a common issue in a lot of places. And so we need those people like you to be innovative and coming up with solutions. We can't just be sitting back and saying, hey, we're just going to keep selling insurance products and financial products and focusing on investments. And we're here to help people. And we need to be helping people at all stages of life, lifting everyone up.
Yeah, you actually raise a good point. Why else I get so passionate about this is because it is starting to spread internationally now. They're taking this show on the road. So you have developing countries that have not yet fully experienced a financial market era. Just in America, credit is a new phenomenon that came in the 50s and 60s. So basically, we're still getting adjusted. We're still new to it in itself. So then you add in a new country like Kenya, or I don't even know, in the Eastern, let's just say in Eastern Europe, where they're still developing. Croatia is a good example, maybe, where they're having these thriving economies, and they're sort of taking advantage of this ability for these people to have these disposable incomes, or the fact that they need disposable income. And so you are having situations where they are experiencing kind of micro financial crises in these developing countries because they are introducing things like credit and payday loans into their society for the first time without any type of financial education. That's where I feel as though the kind of what you're doing, the financial professionals of the universe are almost the gatekeepers to make sure that their clients have the coupled financial education to go along with the products that they are marketing, and that they do not become persuaded by some of these sort of quick money promises, with these payday loans, and helping them to understand the long-term impact. I remember when payday loans first hit urban Black America. Everybody thought it was a blessing. Everybody thought it was like, oh my God, about time.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, And then 2 months later, everybody can't even pay their rent because you have to pay the payday loan man with the exorbitant fees, and you're trying to climb the ladder of the next amount that they're going to give you, and the whole thing is just it's heart-wrenching. It really is.
Well, it is. And it's also the assumption that clients that can afford to work with financial advisors and financial planners, that they even understand these things that you teach in Credit Stacker. A lot of times they aren't even familiar with credit and debt and cash flow, and they've never gone through that. I mean, financial education is not taught anywhere. It's not in college. It's not in primary, secondary, you name it. So many people just jump right from I don't know anything to everything's complicated. And it almost feels like the financial services industry has been built with that on purpose to sort of keep people down, which I know might be a bold statement, but that's, a lot of what's driven me is like we work so hard to make everything complicated. And that's just not how it should be. And maybe that made sense decades ago before the internet and information was so accessible. But I think, financial planners around the world should at the least be carving out, a couple of days a year to reach out to people that can't afford their services and, talk with them and get to know those people and their stories, because you want them to get to a place where they can work with you.
Yes, another great point. That's actually why we create our products, Credit Stacker, as well as our new product, Credit Fixer, where we're helping people to round up their spare change to be able to pay off their debt and automatically increase their credit score. I was raised by life insurance agents and financial professionals. I grew up in the industry. I grew up in people's houses, all type of, everywhere you can sell a product, my mother was there selling it, okay? And I was right there with her, me and my sister. And I used to sell myself. And so, and then on the corporate side, I used to manage the research for Voice of the Financial Professional. So I understand the entirety of the industry. And in case financial professionals did not know, let me be the one to give you some breaking news. The reason I left Prudential, the final straw, the reason I created this game and all of that, in addition to Africa, was the actual intelligence that they were not listening to as much as they could have, where they constantly had me doing financial professional research, and the research was screaming that they needed to deliver financial education to their client, that the days of just selling products was over. As a result of the financial crises, people now wanted to be financially educated as a means of marketing. So it was almost like, I forgot the word for it. It was like edu marketing. I think it was like edu marketing. That might be the word. And that is what needed to happen. After doing 3 research studies in a row, with the numbers growing higher, that financial education was the key to increasing the sales, I was like, this is pointless. I have to go create a financial education tool. Again, I was raised by salesmen. Yes, we educate, but at the end of the day, people still have to buy products. I'm not against people buying products. I'm for people buying products responsibly. So we've done several studies where, I'll give you an example. A company, the government, the DC government was using a product called EverFi, and they were using them for 5 years. And the product was not working. Accounts would be overdrawn every single summer by the students, and people were not scoring. The financial education tests were not going well, and they were about to lose their grant. They then brought us in. We executed the project. Not only did they find that financial literacy rates were going up after an hour, they were able to get their grant. The accounts were still open at the end of the summer. We opened up 1,300 accounts in 6 weeks. And then a year later, 600 more accounts have been opened. The mayor then mandated financial literacy for the city using Wealthy Life, and then appointed me commissioner of financial literacy. I'm now vice chair. And so we know that there is a very critical difference between how people operate with their financial products when it's attached to financial education, and specifically the financial education that we deliver where it is personalized and it is in a vernacular that they understand, and it's an engaging format, like a game, where they don't feel as though it's being pushed down their throats. We purposely spent many years of research just on those components so that we could make sure it excelled, so that a financial professional could come along, simply send out an email and say, hey, download Credit Stacker, download Credit Fixer. You know, do you need financial education? Bam. Do you actually have some credit that you need fixing? You actually have some debt now? Bam, here you go. Dramatically saving them time. We've had people come to us where they've been able to increase their credit score by more than 100 points and go off and get home loans for $150,000.
Wow.
So we're now working with banks and loan officers so that they don't have to take their time and away from their kids, me, you know, little kid in the corner sitting in somebody's house on a Saturday, like, Mom, why are we here? You know, instead they can send the client the app and tell them to download it for $10 and everybody's happy. You know, they can do it on their time. They can circle back to the financial professional when they're ready. And we just see that that's how we really feel as though it's going to benefit the world, to be able to put it in the hands of the financial professionals and loan officers, because they are the gatekeepers.
So, Angel, what advice do you have for financial advisors and financial planners around the world on how they can bring Credit Stacker and Credit Fixer into their roles?
Yeah, so I think it's as simple as just recommending it to their client. I would say immediately after the first meeting. Like after the first meeting, when you are having a follow-up email, it's a really nice touch and a really nice add-on to be able to go ahead and send out to them. That's actually one of the main ways we envisioned it when we first even created the product, as something that would be an attractive tool for the financial professionals to say, hey, we're on this financial literacy journey with you. Here's a tool that should be fun and that you can go ahead and learn from, and circle back to me, you know, if you have any questions that I can help guide you through. Even when it comes to their affluent clients, you would be surprised how financially illiterate affluent people are. Just because they have money does not mean that they know how to properly manage it or that they even made it. You know, a lot of them inherited the money. So it's just, and those are the people that actually need the most financial education. I was watching some show I was watching yesterday. Oh, I was watching the college admission scandal about Lori Loughlin. And she was pressuring her son to go to Stanford. Like, that's how she got caught. And I was like, for the life of me, I don't understand why rich people don't train their kids to be investors. Like, why? I don't even get it. Like, why even bother? Why, if he wants to go off and do music and play guitar and all that, why are you trying to force this boy to go to Stanford? I instead was putting him in the most financial literacy classes I can, investment classes. I would start off with small pools of money, like $10,000. And I would say, okay, go find an investment. Go find some type of music company, some type of music tech, some type of new music hardware, something that you can invest in, and then show me that you made a return on that investment. That's the education that I would be giving my kid if I was a rich person and they didn't want to go to college. Yeah. Like, instead of paying $500,000 to sneak them into the school. When I saw that, I was like, my God, like, how many investments could that have been? The guy could be like a billionaire. By the time you got caught and went to jail for this whole thing, he could have invested in Uber or something. Like, it's like, it's insane to me. So, yes, people definitely, or even just leverage his credit. You know, he could have went and bought some property, went and became a real estate tycoon, all type of things. I just feel like, I call it hustling backwards. I feel like people are hustling backwards.
Yeah.
And you would be surprised how that actually happens, even more so in the affluent community. And we actually did a study on this at Prudential. And turns out, brace yourself, people with less money, people that make less money, save more often and have higher savings. And I will never forget my boss, who had been in research for 16 years. He was shocked at the research results. He was absolutely shocked. And it was like, and at the reason we were even doing this study is because they were considering creating a law that you had to have a certain financial status in order to be a financial professional.
Yep.
And I was like, and immediately when he came and approached me with this, I was like, that's never going to work. I was like, I was like, even the financial professionals don't know how to manage their money. I was like, I guarantee you, even the financial professionals have bad credit. He was like, oh, you're crazy. And da, 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 da. We did the research. Sure enough, it was almost dead even across all three buckets. Whether you made less than $25,000 a year, and then it was like from 25 to 100,000, and then 100,000 or above, all had the same amount of savings level, same amount of savings, but at the bottom quartile, it was like 5% higher. And that was really interesting.
Yeah. Crazy. So Angel, in the last minute here, what advice would you give to financial advisors, financial planners around the world that maybe work in those big, comfy corporate jobs with the great benefits, but have that little voice saying they're meant to do more, they want to have a bigger impact in the world? What would you tell them?
I would say what my best friend says that I do: jump out the window and build the parachute on the way down. I've had, literally 70-year-old Caucasian males write me letters about how I inspired them to quit their jobs and how they've gone off and started their own company. It is really just a matter of having the confidence to do it. I call it guts and grit. You need to have the grit. You need to have some type of intelligence that you're doing this off of, like the CFO of Prudential said to me when I decided to quit: tell me the idea, Angel, because I want to make sure you're not off your rocker. So I will never forget that statement. And then I told it to him. He was like, not bad. So you need to first run it past some people, what's the idea about a good number that a mentor that I actually talked to today that helped me start my company. He told me, once you reach 100 people that support your idea, you've talked to 100 people that with the same idea, you delivered the same sentence, and 100 people have said, yes, that is a great idea. We wholeheartedly think you should do that. Once you reach 100 people, you're on to something. You have something. Then I would start working on the intellectual property or business plan, because it's something to come up with an idea, but a lot of people don't like the work. There's been a lot of mentees that I've had that, they take forever to do things. And I had one friend, she's my friend. After about 5 years of us going back and forth, I said, girl, I don't think you want to be an entrepreneur. I was like, at this point, you just wasted my time. I think you want to be an inventor. You've invented something great, but I don't think you actually want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So, and she was like, you know what? You're right. I just want to be a teacher. So I'm like,
and that's fair.
It is. Yeah. You do not have to be an entrepreneur. You can invent this. You can sell it to somebody. You can have somebody else run it. You do not have to leave your job. You can continue doing what you're doing. I have another friend named Jewel Burks. She created a company called Part Pick. She ended up selling it to Amazon for $4 million. Wow. And then she had them give her a job as running her company inside of it as well. Yeah. And then she recently became the head of Google for startups. And so, but she has maintained a job this whole time and cashed in $4 million on her product. So it's a bunch of different ways that you can go about it, depending on what your comfort level is. I also have friends that build it up for maybe 6 months to a year, and then they quit, So it depends on how you feel as though you operate best. But I would do it when you feel comfortable and when you have savings. I did have $100,000 saved up, and I did that for 3 years. I lived off of half of my income for 3 years because I knew I wanted to quit after 3 years. And I quit 3 years, 3 months, and 3 days to the T. That's the amount of time it takes for my pension to get vested. So I would say have a plan. Definitely have a plan, but don't let fear hold you back. If you don't have the parachute, but you got the money to build it, jump out the window.
I love it. Awesome. Angel, thank you so much. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your passion. I love the passion. Thank you for the solutions that you are building. I would love to stay in touch. I know you have so much more of your story that we could cover. So we'll probably have you back on. And I just really appreciate everything you're doing.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. Everybody can follow me on Instagram at AngelRich27. You can get our textbook and ebook on Amazon, Wealthy Life Financial Literacy Textbook, as well as download Credit Stacker on Google Play and iOS.
Yep. And I've got all those links in the show notes. So click right below. You can link right through to them. And for all of your clients, for your clients' kids and grandkids, let's get Credit Stacker and Credit Fixer out there to everyone around the world.
Yes. Oh, and I can't forget History of the Black Dollar as well. Yes, definitely want to shout that out.
Yes. And we might have you back on just to talk about that. And I know you've got other books, so lots more to cover with you, Angel. Thanks for listening to the Innovating Advice Show. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so make sure to connect with me on LinkedIn and shoot me a thought or two. Link to my profile is right below. Stay safe, stay well, and I look forward to hearing from you.